Thank you very much. First, I'd like to great thanks to the sponsors who brought this great African art to South Africa, the greatest land on earth. Thank you very much. I'm not reciting poetry, but I am telling you a story. And this story is called The King of All the Stories. The other name for this story is The Story That Never Ends. One time, a man who traveled and heard so many stories in the world, he wants to go back again on his travels to hear another new story that he've never heard before. So he ended up in Ethiopia in a region called Ilubabor. In that place, there were so many people live, and they know so many stories. And the man started traveling in these villages and start listening to everybody's story. Someone comes and say this, oh, I heard that. This, I heard that. This, I heard that, I heard this, I heard that, I heard. He started traveling to another village, and he listened to all the people who were telling him the story, and he couldn't find even a single story. Now he moved to the remotest part for the last time and heard so many people, and he couldn't even find a single story. Finally, he was upset and he was tired, and he decided to go back home. As soon as he left the village, an old man with a shabby dress, with a blanket and a stick with his hands, stroking his beard, came right in front of this man and said, "Are you the one who listened all the stories of the world, and you came here to listen a new story that you've never heard?" And the man said, "Yes." "So I have one for you." "Oh, come on. You know, don't even try. I am tired. I've heard so many stories. Now I've got to go. I've got to go. Please let me go." He shouted, "Let me go. I just want to go because I've heard so many stories in this town, in this village, in this land. I couldn't find a single new ones at all. I am going for good. Get the hell out of my face." And then he pushed him to go. The old man patiently, "You know what? If I tell you one story, you will be happy forever. Just give me a moment to tell you." And they go back and forth, "No, please, no, please." Finally, the man said, "Why not I?" Then the neighbors brought a wonderful chair. They put him there, and all those storytellers were there, and all the neighbors were there. So the old man, like me, standing right in front of these audiences and this man. And then the story started. There was a beautiful place in Elubabor, he said. This place is called the broken piece of heaven. This land came from heaven, a broken piece of a big land landed in this town. But in this little town, nobody lives except the great ants, just ants. Millions and billions and trillions and huge numbers of ants live in that area. They crawl, they go one on the top, underneath. Countless numbers of ants live. So one ant was tired and fed up living in that empire, in that kingdom of the ants. He wants to move somewhere else. And then he left that kingdom, and then he went far away, and then he started living there. Then now he was hungry, he has to find some food. Now, walking and walking and walking and walking, and then he saw a huge silo, big silo, a huge one, round and so big. And that young ant started circling around and sniffing and sensing, and he knew that it was food. So he started climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. I stopped for a moment, looked up. I'm getting closer, he said. I'm getting closer with anticipation. And then start walking and walking and walking and walking and stopped. And then he said, I'm really getting closer, and then walked all the way up to the top of the silo, which was covered with a straw, and then he got a space and he walked in. Oh my God, said the silo was full of barley grains. Looked at the grains, and then, you know how the ants dance? They shake the butt like this. They are really nice shakers. They shake the butt. And then you say, shake the butt round the neck, shake the butt round the neck, shake the butt round the neck. And then he picked one grain, and then he came out, and then he started walking down the silo, walking down, sometimes rushing as fast as that skinny little legs would carry him, and that barley grain all the way down to the ground, and then went down to his home and put the grain. And then came back again, knowing the silo. And then he started walking, and then climbing and climbing and climbing. I stopped for a moment. He looked up and said, I'm getting closer, and then start climbing and climbing and climbing. I stopped and looked up and said, he said to himself triumphantly, now I'm getting closer. And then he moved on, and then he got to the end of the silo, which was covered on a straw. He got a space, and then he got in. There it was, full of barley grain again, and then shake the butt round the neck, shake the butt round the neck. Say, shake the butt round the neck, shake the butt round the neck, and grabbed one grain, and it came out and started walking down, walking and walking and walking, and then walking and start rushing as fast as his skinny legs would carry him in the barley grain and going down to the ground and start walking all the way down to his home, put the grain, and he came back again for the third time, looking at the grain, and then start climbing and climbing and climbing, and then stopped for a moment and looked up, and then he said, I'm getting closer, he said, with anticipation this time, and I started walking and walking and walking, and he said, I'm really getting close. I'm really getting closer this time. And then walked all the way up to the end of the silo, which was covered with a straw. He got the space and he went in. There he was, a huge barley full of, the silo was full of barley. He grabbed one. And then he came out and started walking and walking, sometimes rushing as fast as his skinny legs would carry himself and the grain, going down to the ground, start walking all the way down to the house, and he put down, and then he came up again for the first time, and then he saw the silo again, started climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing, and stopped for a moment, looked up and said, I'm getting closer, he said. I'm getting closer, he said, with anticipation, and then start walking, walking and walking. I stopped for a moment, and he said, I'm really getting closer. He said, yes, he said on triumphantly, and then went all the way up to the end of the silo, and then which was covered on a straw and got in space, and then he went in, and there he saw, oh my God, full of barley grains again. He picked that one and then started walking, walking and walking, and sometimes rushing, as fast as his skinny legs would carry his body, and getting to the ground and start walking all the way down to his home, and then put the grain. Then he went, and for the first 5 times, now he started climbing and climbing down, stopped for a moment, looked up, and then he said, I'm getting closer, and then started walking and walking and walking, and then I'm really getting closer, triumphantly, and then started walking and walking, and got into the end of the silo, which was covered with a straw. He got a space in, and then he picked up another grain proudly and started walking, sometimes rushing until his skinny, tiny legs would carry himself and the grain, and he came down to the ground, and then he put the grain, and then he came back. Then the man said, stop! 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 I'm getting crazy! You are telling me this story repeatedly again and again and again and again and again. I hate this. Where is the end of the story? He said, where is the end of the story? Huh? I need the essence of this story. I need to know where it ends. The old man looked at him like this, knowing the silo. The ant started climbing. I stopped for a moment, and then I'm getting closer, he said, and start walking and walking and walking. Oh, I'm really looked up, he said, I'm really getting closer. Triumphantly, and then walked all the way down at the end, which was covered with a straw. He just got in, and then he picked another grain, and he came down, walking and walking, sometime rushing until his skinny legs would carry him and the grain. And when down to the ground and walked all the way down to his home and put the grain, and then he came back. Then he came back and saw the whole, this big thing, and started climbing and climbing and climbing. Stopped for a moment and looked up. I said, I'm getting closer, and then getting closer with anticipation, and then I started walking and walking. Oh, he said, looking up, stop for a moment, looking up and said, I'm really getting closer. Now, I'm really getting closer. Triumphantly now, I got to go all the way up, and he went all the way up until the end of where the silo, which was covered on a straw, and he got the space in, and he picked another grain. And then he came down, started walking down, and down, and down, and down, and down, and then rushing, and putting down, and going to his right, and putting, and coming down again. He started walking, and walking down, and picking, and then walking, and start walking, and and putting, and then start coming, walking up, and again getting another one, start going up, walking, and bringing, and putting it inside. Then start there. Almost 15 times, and then the man said, stop, I'm getting mad. He said, stop. Stop. This time, the old man was so mad, he just walked straight to his eyes and said, you man, listen. You listen now. The ant traveled 15 times. In 15 times, she had only 15 grains. 15 grains. That wouldn't even last her for a week. The ant has to go and get the whole grains and put it in his house. Until then, you have to sit down and watch and listen. This will last you forever. You wouldn't spend your money. You wouldn't spend your energy. You would feel happy. And then the man, he really saw that one. And then he said, oh, God, thank you for blessing me. I'm blessed to hear this story. This is really the king of all the stories, the story that never ends. I could have thought that one. Thank you very much. ጎርፊያ መጣሽን ደፍ ለጠብቅ ወዙ እንደ እንጦጦ ማርያም እንደ ቅድስት ማርያም እንደ ባታ ማርያም እንደ ግሸን ማርያም እንደ ላሊበላን እንደ አክሱም ጽዮን እንደ አክሱም ጽዮን ላያት ልምጣን አይንና ጥርሷን ተሳልሚያት ልምጣ አይንና ጥርሷን A little musical story about my father and my mother. How many days are there in 1 week? Do you know how many days in 1 week? Last time we had, huh? 7? 7 days. Oh, 8 days. Good. Some say, okay. I say 8 days. Well, where do you start from? Sunday. And end when? Sunday. So from Sunday to Sunday? 8 days. So the calendar is wrong. Sunday 1, Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That will make it 8 days. No wonder my mother and my father argue on Sundays, because Sunday is the beginning and the end. If you make love on Sunday, the next Sunday you're going to be fighting with your husband. That is for sure. The beginning and the end. So don't make love on Sundays, rest. And then my mother would like to go out and get some water in the river, nice river. And then she is so proudly carrying her pot and she wants to get some water. But my father gets jealous because there are so many young guys by the river hanging out, combing their hairs and looking at this beautiful woman. I mean, I wasn't born that time though. But so my mother goes out and gets some water, but my father really gets jealous. And then when she is ready to leave, he said like this: "Where are you going with that pot on your shoulder? I built this house for you. You should stay with me." And then she says, "No, I have to go and get some water." "No, I built this house for you. You got to stay in this house. We got to sing and dance together." She says, "No, I've got to go and get some water. I've got to go and dance with my friends around the river." And then he says like this: "What did ትሄጃለሽ አንቺ አንቺ ሴት በጣይ ቤቱን የሰራሁት እንደው ላንቺ አይደለም ወይ? እዚህ ተቀምጬ ምን እሰራለሁ? ውሃ ቤት የለም አንተ ከምንጭ አመጣለሁ?" ብናገሩ አፈኛ ዝም ቢሉ ሞኝ ቢቀጥኑ ወረንጦ ቢወፍሩ ዘጦ ቢናገሩ አፈኛ ዝም ቢሉ ሞኝ አረሰው አንቺ ሰው አንቺ አስቸገርሽኝ። This time the neighbors hear. When they complain, the neighbors hear. And then the neighbors start coughing. Can you cough? 3 times only. You gotta cough, because if you don't cough, you don't get air at all. You've gotta cough. ወደት የጃለሽ አንቺ ሴት በጣይና Can you say? Hey, hey. 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 Now the men. Hey. The men. Hey. Not only the men. Hey. The women. Again. The men. ወደት የጃለሽ አንቺ ሴት በጣይና አገሬ ነረ ያምራል አገሬ ነረ ያምራል አገሬ ያምራል አገሬ ነረ ያምራል አገሬ ነረ ያምራል አገሬ ያምራል አገሬ ነረ ያምራል አገሬ ነረ ያምራል የትም የትም ዞሬ ትዝ አለኝ ሀገሬ ያምራል አገሬ ነረ ያምራል አገሬ ነረ ያምራል አገሬ ነሃ አገሬ ነሃ አገሬ ነሃ አገሬ ነሃ ባንቺ ነዋ ማማሬ ሳረጅ መጦሪያዬ ስሞት መቃብሬ ስጋሽን በልቼ ወተትሽን ጠጥቼ ችግሬን ጥዬብሽ በላይሽ ላይ ኖሬን ሳረጅ መጦሪያ ኢትዮጵያ ስሞት መቃብሬ አገሬ ሳረጅ መጦሪያ ኢትዮጵያ ስሞት መቃብሬ አገሬ የሰው ልጅ መገኛ ቅድስት አገር ኢትዮጵያ ስዩመ እግዚአብሔር እስላም ክርስቲያን ባንድ የሚኖርባት የፍቅር ቃል ኪዳን ውል የታሰረባት የዓለም መድኃኒት ኢትዮጵያ ናት የዓለም ተምሳሌት ኢትዮጵያ ናት ያምራል አገሬ ኧረ ያምራል አገሬ ኧረ ያምራል Can you say this? ያምራል አገሬ ኧረ ያምራል አገሬ ኧረ ባንቺ ነው ባንቺ ነው ባንቺ ነው ማማሬ ያምራል አገሬ